In the dead heart of Utah's desert, a sealed mine hides a chilling secret. Sarah and Andrew vanished on a camping trip, their Jeep found abandoned, its lights flickering. 8 years later, their bodies are uncovered, welded inside a uranium mine, hands clasped, eyes staring into darkness. A necklace marked eternal lies between them, not theirs. Strange carvings and a cryptic journal hint at a killer or something worse. Who sealed them in? Why? The mine's eerie hum holds the answer, and Emma, Sarah's sister, won't stop until she unearths the truth. Stick around, this gets darker. The air in the Utah desert was thick with heat, even at dusk, as Jake Harper and Tommy Ruiz wrestled with their gas cutter. The abandoned uranium mine loomed before them, a jagged scar in the red rock, sealed shut by a rusted steel plate the size of a pickup truck. The plate was an oddity. Nobody sealed mines like this, not out here in the middle of nowhere, 30 miles from Moab. Jake wiped sweat from his brow, the acrid smell of burning metal stinging his nose. His flashlight beam danced across the plate, catching bolts and welds that looked too deliberate, too precise. Man, this thing's built like a vault, Jake muttered, adjusting his grip on the cutter. Sparks flew, painting the twilight in fleeting bursts of orange. Who the hell welds a mine shut? Tommy, crouched beside him, shrugged, his face smudged with dirt. Beats me, dude. Probably some paranoid miner back in the 70s, scared of claim jumpers. Keep cutting. This plate's worth a couple $100 at the scrapyard. Jake grunted, focusing the flame. The steel groaned, a low, mournful sound that made the hairs on his neck stand up. The desert was silent. Other was seen. No crickets, no wind, just the hiss of the cutter and their own breathing. They'd been at it for an hour, hacking through the plate to get at the scrap inside the mine. Old uranium mines like this one were gold mines for scavengers, rusted tools, copper wiring, maybe even a forgotten ore card, if they got lucky. But something about this place felt wrong, like the mine was watching them. You hear that? Tommy froze, tilting his head. Like a hum or something. Jake killed the cutter, plunging them into silence. He strained his ears, catching nothing but the faint rustle of his own jacket. You're imagining things, man. This place is deader than my ex's heart. Tommy chuckled, but his eyes darted to the dark horizon. Just keep going. I want to be out of here before midnight. Jake reignited the cutter, and the steel plate finally gave way, a jagged section crashing to the ground with a dull clang. Dust billowed, choking the air, and a cold, musty draft poured out from the mine, like the breath of something long buried. Jake coughed, waving the dust away, and aimed his flashlight into the opening. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing a narrow tunnel of bare rock, strewn with pebbles and rusted bolts. The air inside was stale, heavy, untouched for years. Smells like a tomb, Jake said, his voice low. He stepped closer, peering into the void. The tunnel stretched maybe 50 feet before curving out of sight. His light caught something at the far end. Two shapes, slumped against the wall. Yo, Tommy, you see that? Tommy scrambled over, snatching his own flashlight. What? More scrap. His beam joined Jake's and both froze. The shapes weren't crates or old gear. They were people. Two figures, sitting side by side, backs against the rock, heads tilted forward like they were napping. Their clothes-faded hiking gear hung loose on shriveled, mummified frames. Their hands were clasped together, fingers interlocked in a grip that hadn't loosened in years. Jesus Christ, Jake whispered, his stomach lurching. Those ain't mannequins, Tommy. They're people. No way, man, Tommy stammered, his flashlight trembling. Nobody's been here in decades. They gotta be props or something, right? But his voice cracked, betraying his fear. The figures were too real, their poses too human. Jake's beam lingered on their face, leathery skin stretched tight over skulls, mouths slightly open, and eyes. God, their eyes were open, staring blankly into the dark. A faint, eerie hum echoed from deeper in the mine, like air being sucked through a distant crack. Jake's heart pounded, his grip tightening on the flashlight. You hear that now? Tommy nodded, his face pale. Yeah. What the hell is it? Jake took a cautious step into the tunnel, his boots crunching on loose gravel. The air grew colder, heavier, pressing against his chest. He swept his light across the figures, noticing details that made his blood run cold. Their legs were twisted at wrong angles, bones visibly fractured beneath tattered pants. No blood, no signs of a fight, just two people who looked like they'd sat down to rest and never got up. And then he saw it, a glint of metal between them, half buried in the dust. A necklace, its pendant engraved with a single word, eternal. "Tommy, check this out," Jake called, his voice barely above a whisper. He knelt, brushing dirt from the necklace. It was silver, delicate, not the kind of thing you'd expect in a mine. "This ain't theirs. Look at their gear, basic hiking stuff. Who leaves a fancy necklace with dead people?" Tommy didn't answer. He was staring at the figures, his flashlight fixed on their clasped hands. Jake, they were holding on tight, like they knew they weren't getting out. Jake's throat tightened. He stood, backing away, his light sweeping the tunnel for answers. The hum grew louder, a low, unnatural drone that seemed to vibrate in his bones. "We gotta call the cops, man. This is way above our pay grade." "Yeah, but we need a signal," Tommy said, already heading for the entrance. "Nearest tower's 5 miles out." "Let's move." They stumbled back to their truck, the mine's dark mouth looming behind them. Jake glanced over his shoulder, half expecting the figures to stand and follow. The desert night was still, the stars cold and distant. As they sped down the dirt road, Jake's mind raced. Who were those people? Why were they sealed in? And what was that necklace doing there? By dawn, the mine was crawling with cops. Sheriff Dan Whitaker, a grizzled man in his 50s with a permanent squint, stood at the entrance, barking orders to his deputies. The state police had been called in, along with a forensic team from Salt Lake City. News vans from Moab were already parked a half-mile away, their reporters buzzing like vultures. The discovery of 2 bodies in a sealed mine wasn't just news, it was a bombshell. Whitaker crouched at the tunnel's edge, his flashlight trained on the bodies. The forensic tech, a young woman named Lisa Nguyen, was snapping photos, her face grim. "Sheriff, these 2 have been here a long time," she said, adjusting her camera. "Dry air mummified them, but I'd guess 8, maybe 10 years. Multiple leg fractures, like they fell from a height. No defensive wounds, no signs of a struggle." Whitaker rubbed his jaw, his eyes narrowing. "Fell, huh? So they stumble into a shaft, break their legs, and just sit there till they die. Doesn't add up. And this plate." He gestured to the steel slab, now propped against a rock. "Someone welded it shut. From the inside." Lisa frowned, glancing at the welds. "Professional work, too. You'd need a heavy-duty rig, a generator, the works. But there's no equipment in there, not a single tool." Whitaker's deputy, a lanky kid named Ryan, piped up. "Could have been a murder-suicide, right? They get trapped, one of them welds the entrance to keep people out, then they, give up." Whitaker shot him a look. "You ever try welding a half-ton plate in a dark tunnel, Ryan? With broken legs? Use your head." Lisa stood, brushing dust from her gloves. "There's something else, Sheriff. We found this." She held up a plastic evidence bag containing the silver necklace. The word eternal gleamed under her flashlight. It was lying between them, but it doesn't match their gear. Too clean, too new for something that's been here a decade. Whitaker took the bag, turning it over in his hands, like someone dropped it later, or left it on purpose. His gaze drifted to the mine's dark interior, where the hum fainter now still lingered. "Get that to the lab. And I want IDs on these 2 ASAP." By noon the bodies had been identified. Sarah Miller and Andrew Hayes, a couple from Colorado, missing since 2011. The news hit Moab like a thunderclap, dredging up memories of a search that had gripped the town 8 years ago. Sarah, a 26-year-old photographer with a knack for capturing sunsets, and Andrew, a 28-year-old engineer who loved hiking, had vanished during a weekend camping trip. Their Jeep was found abandoned 2 miles from the mine, its tank bone dry, hazard lights flickering. Despite a week-long search, helicopters, ATVs, Dozens of volunteers, no trace of them was ever found, until now. Emma Miller, Sarah's older sister, got the call at her desk in Denver, where she worked as an investigative reporter for the Post. Her phone buzzed, and Sheriff Whitaker's gruff voice came through, delivering the news like a sledgehammer. "Emma, we found them. Sarah and Andrew. In a mine out near Cane Creek. I'm sorry." Emma's world tilted. She gripped the edge of her desk, her coffee mug trembling in her hand. "Found them? You mean, alive?" A long pause. "No, Emma. They're gone. Been gone a long time. You should come down to Moab. We need to talk." She was on a plane within the hour, her mind a storm of grief and questions. Sarah, her little sister, the one who'd send her goofy texts about desert flowers and bad campfire cooking, was dead. And Andrew, the quiet guy who'd proposed to Sarah under a Colorado sky, was gone too. But a mine? Welded shut? None of it made sense. Emma arrived in Moab at dusk, the town bathed in the glow of neon signs and sodium streetlights. The sheriff's office was a squat brick building, its lot packed with police cruisers and news vans. Inside, Whitaker was waiting, his desk cluttered with maps and evidence bags. He slid a photo across to Emma. The mine's interior, Sarah and Andrew slumped against the wall, their faces frozen in death. Emma's breath caught. "That's them," she whispered, her fingers tracing the photo. "But they look like they were just sitting there. Like they gave up." Whitaker leaned back, his chair creaking. "That's what bothers me. No signs of a fight, no blood. Just broken legs and that damn steel plate. Someone wanted them gone, Emma. And they went to a lot of trouble to make sure nobody found them." Emma's eyes fell on the evidence bag with the necklace. "What's this?" "Found it between them," Whitaker said. "Doesn't belong to Sarah or Andrew. Far as we can tell, we're running it for prints, but..." He hesitated, his voice dropping. "There's something else. We found a notebook in Sarah's pocket. Half the pages are rotted, but what's left?" He slid another evidence bag across, containing a small, tattered journal. Emma opened it, her hands shaking. Sarah's handwriting, once so familiar, was now frantic, scrawled in fading ink. The last entry read, "He's watching us. Last night, the light moved. Andrew says it's nothing, but I know he's out there." Emma looked up, her voice sharp. "Who's he? What light?" Whitaker shook his head. "We don't know. Could be delirium, could be real. But that notebook changes things. This wasn't an accident, Emma. Someone was out there with him." The room seemed to close in, the hum of the mine echoing in Emma's memory, though she'd never heard it. She clutched the notebook, her sister's final words burning into her. Sarah had been scared, trapped, and someone had sealed her in that stone coffin. Emma's grief hardened into resolve. "I'm not leaving Moab until I find out who did this, Sheriff, and why." Whitaker sighed, rubbing his temples. "Just don't go playing detective, Emma. This is bigger than you think." That night, Emma checked into a motel on Moab's main drag, the neon sign buzzing outside her window. She sat on the bed, Sarah's notebook open in her lap, rereading the cryptic words, "He's watching us." Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number, "Meet me at the diner on Route 191. Midnight. I know what happened to your sister." Emma's pulse raced. She grabbed her jacket and headed out, the desert night swallowing her footsteps. The diner was a mile away, its chrome exterior glinting under streetlights. Inside, a man waited in a corner booth, his face shadowed by a baseball cap. He looked up as she approached, his eyes wary. "You Emma Miller?" he asked, his voice low. "Yeah." "Who are you?" "Name's Caleb. Used to work these mines. I know things about that place, things the cops won't tell you." Emma slid into the booth, her heart pounding. "Like what?" Caleb leaned forward, his voice barely a whisper. "That mine ain't just a hole in the ground. It's a grave. And Sarah and Andrew? They weren't the first." A chill ran down Emma's spine. Before she could respond, the diner's lights flickered, and a low, eerie hum filled the air, like the mine itself was calling her name. Sarah Miller's old Jeep Cherokee rattled down the cracked asphalt of Highway 191, the Colorado sun blazing overhead. It was a Friday morning in June 2011, and the air was already thick with summer heat. Sarah, 26, gripped the wheel, her auburn hair tied back in a loose ponytail, her camera bag bouncing on the passenger seat. Beside her, Andrew Hayes, 28, fiddled with the radio, his brow furrowed. The Jeep's AC had died years ago, and the open windows did little to cut the 90-degree swelter. They were headed for the Utah desert, a 3-day camping trip to snap photos of the Red Rock Canyons and old uranium mines near Cane Creek. Sarah was buzzing with excitement, but Andrew's jaw was tight, his eyes scanning the horizon like he was waiting for trouble. "You sure about this, Sar?" Andrew asked, finally giving up on the static-filled radio. His voice was low, edged with worry. "These mines aren't exactly tourist traps. No cell service, no gas stations for miles. What if we get stuck?" Sarah flashed him a grin, her green eyes sparkling. "Come on, babe. It's just 3 days. We'll pitch a tent, take some killer sunset shots, and be back in Denver by Sunday night. Besides, these mines are history, not haunted houses. You read too many horror novels." Andrew snorted, running a hand through his dark hair. "History's got a way of biting you in the ass out here. My grandpa used to tell stories about those uranium mines collapses, radiation, guys disappearing. I'm just saying, we stick to the plan, okay? No wandering off." "Deal," Sarah said, but her tone was playful, not serious. She reached over, squeezing his hand. "You're such a worrier. That's why I love you." Andrew managed a half-smile, but his gut churned. He was an engineer, used to blueprints and certainties, not the wild unknown of Utah's desert. Sarah, though she was all heart, chasing beauty in the world with her camera. Her passion was why he'd proposed 6 months ago, under a starlit sky in the Rockies. But this trip felt different, like a shadow hung over it. He couldn't shake the feeling that something was waiting for them out there. They crossed the state line into Utah by noon, the landscape shifting from green hills to stark red rock. The Jeep's odometer ticked past 200,000 miles as they turned onto a dirt road, barely a scratch in the endless sea of sand and stone. Sarah pulled out a crumpled map, pointing to a spot marked with a red X. "This is it," she said, 2 miles from the old Cane Creek mine. Perfect spot for camping, open views, no crowds. Andrew glanced at the map, his stomach tightening. "That X is awful close to the mine, Sar. You sure we shouldn't camp farther out?" "Relax," she said, folding the map. "We're not going inside the mine. I just want shots of the entrance at sunset. It's gonna look epic." She leaned over, kissing his cheek. "Trust me." He sighed, letting it go. For Sarah, he'd walk through fire. A desert mine was nothing. By 3 p.m., they'd set up camp a half-mile from the mine, a small clearing surrounded by jagged boulders. The tent was a faded green dome, barely big enough for 2 sleeping bags. Sarah unpacked her camera, a Nikon she'd saved 2 years to buy, while Andrew checked the Jeep's supplies, 3 gallons of water, a cooler with sandwiches and beer, a first aid kit, and a flashlight. The gas gauge showed a quarter tank, enough to get back to Moab, he figured, as long as they didn't joyride. The afternoon passed quietly. Sarah wandered the clearing, snapping photos of twisted juniper trees and distant mesas, her laughter echoing in the stillness. Andrew built a small fire, the crackle of wood a comfort against the vast, empty desert. As the sun dipped low, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Sarah grabbed her tripod and headed toward the mine, a quarter-mile away. "You coming?" she called, her voice bright. Andrew hesitated, glancing at the darkening horizon. "Yeah, but let's make it quick. I don't like being out here after dark." They hiked to the mine, a gaping hole in the rock framed by rusted beams and scattered debris. The entrance was narrow, maybe 5 feet wide, leading into a tunnel that vanished into shadow. Sarah set up her tripod, adjusting the lens to capture the mine against the fiery sky. Andrew stood back, his hands in his pockets, scanning the area. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the click of Sarah's shutter. "God, this is perfect," Sarah said, peering through the viewfinder. "Look at that light. It's like the mine's glowing. Andrew forced a smile, but his eyes caught something, a flicker of movement in the distance, near a cluster of rocks. He squinted, his heart picking up. Sar, you see that? She lowered the camera, frowning. See what? Over there, he said, pointing. Looked like, I don't know, a light or something. Sarah followed his gaze, but the rocks were still, bathed in twilight. Probably just the sun, reflecting off something. You're jumpy, babe. Maybe, he muttered, but he didn't look convinced. The flicker was gone, but the unease lingered, a cold weight in his chest. That night, they sat by the fire, sharing a beer and a bag of chips. Sarah scribbled in her notebook, a small leather-bound journal she carried everywhere. What are you writing? Andrew asked, poking the fire with a stick. Just notes, she said, her pen moving fast. The way the mine looked at sunset, the colors, the vibe. I want to remember this. Andrew leaned back, staring at the stars. Vibe, huh? This place gives me the creeps. Too quiet. She laughed, closing the notebook. You're such a city boy. It's just nature, Andy. Nothing out here but us and the coyotes. But as they crawled into the tent, Andrew couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. He lay awake, listening to Sarah's steady breathing, his flashlight clutched in one hand. Around midnight, he heard a faint crunch, like footsteps on gravel, just outside the tent. He sat up, heart pounding, and unzipped the flap. The fire was down to embers, the clearing empty. But in the distance, near the mine, a faint light bobbed, like a flashlight moving away. Sar, he whispered, shaking her. Wake up. She groaned, rubbing her eyes. What's wrong? There's someone out there, he said, his voice low. I saw a light. She sat up, peering out the flap. The light was gone, the desert dark and still. You sure it wasn't a dream? There's nobody for miles. I know what I saw, he snapped, grabbing the flashlight. He stepped outside, sweeping the beam across the clearing. Nothing but rocks and sand. The mine loomed in the distance, its entrance a black void. Maybe it was a hiker or something. In the middle of nowhere? Sarah said, joining him. Come on, let's go back to sleep. You're freaking me out. But she wrote in her notebook before bed, her hand shaking. Andrew saw a light. I didn't, but now I'm not sure. Something feels wrong. The next morning, Saturday, disaster struck. Andrew checked the Jeep, cursing under his breath. Sar, we're screwed. Tank's almost dry. I thought we had enough gas to get back. Sarah's face fell. What? You didn't check before we left? I did, he said, defensive. Must be a leak or something. We're at least 10 miles from the nearest station. They stood by the Jeep, the sun already scorching. Sarah pulled out the map, her finger tracing the dirt road. The mine's closer than Moab. Maybe there's a ranger station or something nearby. We can walk, check it out, and come back with help. Andrew shook his head. That's a bad idea. We should stay with the car, wait for someone to pass by. Nobody's coming, Andy, she said, her voice sharp. This road's been dead since we got here. We have water, we have the flashlight. Let's go. He relented, grabbing a backpack with 2 gallons of water, the flashlight, and Sarah's small digital recorder, a gadget she used to narrate photo ideas. They locked the Jeep, leaving the hazard lights on, and hiked toward the mine, the heat pressing down like a physical weight. By noon, they reached the entrance, sweat-soaked and exhausted. The mine looked different in daylight, its shadows deeper, its silence more menacing. No ranger station, Andrew said, kicking a rusted can. This was a waste of time. Sarah didn't answer. She was staring at the mine, her camera in hand. Maybe there's a shed or something inside. Old mines had storage, right? No way, Andrew said, grabbing her arm. We're not going in there. That place is a death trap. But Sarah was already moving, stepping toward the entrance. Just a quick look. 5 minutes. Before he could stop her, she ducked inside, her flashlight beam cutting through the dark. Andrew cursed, following her. The tunnel was narrow, the air cool but heavy with dust. They moved cautiously, their footsteps echoing. Sarah's recorder clicked on, her voice soft. inside the mine now. It's eerie, like stepping into a grave. Andrew's pissed, but I need to see what's here. They rounded a bend, and the ground vanished. A wooden board, rotted and hidden under dust, gave way beneath their weight. Sarah screamed as they plummeted, a 20-foot drop into a vertical shaft. They hit the stone floor hard, pain exploding in their legs. Andrew groaned, clutching his shin, where bone protruded through skin. Sarah lay beside him, her ankle twisted at a sickening angle, her flashlight rolling away. "Oh God," she gasped, tears streaming down her face. "Andy, we're stuck." He crawled to her, ignoring his own pain. "It's okay, Sar. We'll get out. Someone will find us." But his voice was hollow, the darkness closing in. The shaft above was a faint circle of light, too high to climb with broken legs. Sarah fumbled for her recorder, her hands trembling. "We're trapped," she whispered into it. "Fell into a shaft. Someone's up there. I saw him." Her voice cracked as she pointed to the tunnel's horizontal entrance, 15 feet away. A shadow moved, silent and deliberate, watching them. Andrew followed her gaze, his heart racing. "Who's there?" he shouted, his voice echoing. No answer, just the scrape of metal on stone, like something heavy being dragged. Sarah scribbled in her notebook, her handwriting frantic. "He's here. The light wasn't a dream. He's real." The shadow stepped closer, a silhouette against the dim light. Sarah's recorder caught a faint, guttural whisper. "Don't trust him." Then, a new sound, sharp, mechanical, like a machine sparking to life, the air filled with the acrid smell of burning metal. "Andy," Sarah whimpered, clutching his hand. "What's that?" He stared at the entrance, his blood running cold. The shadow was welding, sparks flying in the dark. "He's sealing us in," Andrew said, his voice breaking. "Jesus, he's locking us in." Sarah screamed, her voice raw. "Help us, please." But the figure didn't stop. The sparks grew brighter, the metal plate sliding into place. A cold, emotionless voice echoed through the tunnel, barely audible over the hum of the welder. "You shouldn't have come here." The last spark faded, and the entrance went black, plunging them into total darkness. Sarah's recorder clicked off, her final words a choked sob. "He's coming back." The man with the torch. Their hands tightened, a desperate lifeline in the cold, unyielding stone. Emma Miller landed in Moab, Utah, on Monday evening, the 20th of June, 2011, her carry-on bag slung over her shoulder and her heart pounding like a war drum. The small airport was a blur of sunburned tourists and rental car kiosks, but Emma barely noticed. Her sister Sarah and her fiancé Andrew had vanished, gone 3 days past their planned return from a camping trip in the desert. Emma, 30, a Denver Post reporter with a knack for digging up truths nobody wanted found, had caught the first flight out after Sarah's boss called, saying she hadn't shown up for work. The last text from Sarah, sent Friday morning, was burned into Emma's mind. "Leaving for Utah. Back Sunday. Love you. Asterisk." Now it was Monday, and Sarah's phone went straight to voicemail. The Moab Sheriff's Office was a low brick building off Highway 191, its parking lot jammed with police cruisers and volunteer trucks. Inside, Sheriff Dan Whitaker, a weathered man with a gray mustache and tired eyes, briefed Emma in a cramped office that smelled of coffee and dust. Maps of the desert sprawled across his desk, red pins marking search zones. "We've got 40 people out there," Whitaker said, pointing to a grid near Cane Creek. "ATVs, dogs, even a chopper. Your sister's Jeep was spotted yesterday, 2 miles from an old uranium mine. Hazard lights on, tank empty. No sign of Sarah or Andrew." Emma's stomach twisted. Empty? They wouldn't run out of gas. Andrew's obsessive about that stuff. He's an engineer, for God's sake. Whitaker shrugged, leaning back in his creaky chair. "Desert's a big place, Miss Miller. People make mistakes, could have taken a wrong turn, burned through their fuel. We're focusing on the area around the Jeep, but it's like looking for a needle in a haystack." Emma's eyes narrowed. "What about the mine? You said it's close. Did you check it?" "Entrance is clear," Whitaker said. "No tracks, no gear. Mines are death traps, collapses, bad air. If they went in, they'd need equipment, and we didn't find any. My guess? They're lost in the canyons. Heat's brutal this time of year. Without water, they've got maybe 3 days. Emma's hands clenched into fists. You're giving up already? It's been what, 72 hours? Not giving up, Whitaker snapped, his voice sharp. But resources are thin. We'll keep searching, but you need to brace for the worst. He slid a photo across the desk. The Jeep, parked on a faint dirt trail, its red paint dulled by dust. The hazard lights were faint, the battery nearly dead. Emma stared at the photo, her throat tight. Sarah's Jeep, the one she'd nicknamed Rusty and driven through every back road in Colorado, was now a ghost in the desert. I want to see it, she said. The Jeep, the mine, all of it. Whitaker sighed. You're a civilian, Emma. Stay out of the way. Let us do our job. I'm a reporter, she shot back. My sister's missing. I'm not sitting on my hands while you manage resources. He held her gaze, then nodded. Fine. Tomorrow morning, you ride with Deputy Ryan. Don't make me regret this. The next morning, Emma joined the search team at dawn, the desert air already warm. Deputy Ryan, a lanky 24-year-old with a nervous grin, drove her to the Jeep's location in a county SUV. The trail was barely a road, more a suggestion of tire tracks winding through red rock and scrub. Volunteers fanned out on ATVs, their engines buzzing like angry wasps. A helicopter thumped overhead, its shadow slicing across the canyons. The Jeep sat alone, a lonely sentinel in the vast emptiness. Emma's breath caught as she approached, her boots crunching on gravel. The doors were unlocked, the interior untouched. A map lay on the passenger seat, a red X marking a spot near the mine. An empty water bottle rolled on the floor. Andrew's phone was in the glove box, battery at 60%, no missed calls. Emma's heart sank. They didn't even try to call for help, she said, her voice low. Ryan shrugged, chewing gum. No signal out here. Nearest tower's 10 miles away. They probably knew it was pointless. Emma opened the center console and froze. A small leather notebook, Sarah's journal, lay tucked beneath a pack of gum. She flipped it open, her fingers trembling. Sarah's neat handwriting filled the pages, detailing their trip. Sunset at the mine was unreal, like the rock was on fire. Andrew's jumpy, says he saw a light last night. I didn't, but now I'm not sure. Asterisk. The last entry, scrawled in haste, sent a chill down Emma's spine. Asterisk. Something's wrong. The light moved again. Someone's out there. Asterisk. Sheriff? Emma called, waving the notebook. Whitaker, inspecting tire tracks nearby, trudged over. Read this. Sarah wrote about being watched. This isn't just a wrong turn. Whitaker scanned the page, his jaw tightening. Could be her imagination. Desert plays tricks on people. Heat, dehydration. Bullshit. Emma cut in. Sarah's not some paranoid kid. She saw something. You need to check that mine again. Whitaker's eyes narrowed. We did. No footprints, no gear. You want us to risk lives crawling into a collapsing tunnel on a hunch? It's not a hunch, Emma said, her voice rising. It's my sister's words. She was scared. Sheriff, someone was out there with them. He sighed, rubbing his neck. I'll send a team to look again, but don't get your hopes up. That afternoon, Emma followed the search team to the mine, a half-mile hike from the Jeep. The entrance was a dark gash in the rock, framed by rusted beams and littered with old cans. Volunteers shouted Sarah's and Andrew's names into the tunnel, their voices swallowed by silence. Emma stood at the edge, her skin prickling. The mine felt alive, its shadows shifting like they were breathing. She clutched Sarah's notebook, rereading the last entry. Asterisk. Someone's out there. Asterisk. Who? A drifter? A local? Or something worse? As the team wrapped up, Emma spotted a group of rough-looking guys lounging by a pickup truck 100 yards away. They were locals, their clothes stained with grease, their truck loaded with metal detectors and shovels. Treasure hunters, she figured, scavenging the mines for old tools or uranium scraps. She approached, ignoring Ryan's warning to stay back. "Hey," she called, stopping a few feet from the group. "You guys hunt around here a lot?" The leader, a wiry man in his 40s with a scar across his cheek, eyed her warily. "Who's asking?" "Emma Miller. My sister and her fiancé went missing out here. Sarah and Andrew. You seen them? Young couple, red Jeep?" The man, Rick, according to his name tag, spit into the dirt. "Might have seen a Jeep a few days back. Couple camping, looked fine. Didn't talk to him. This desert's big, lady. People come and go." Emma's eyes narrowed. Rick's hands were bandaged, fresh burns peeking from the gauze. "You see anything else? Lights at night? Anyone hanging around the mine?" Rick's buddies exchanged glances, but he just shrugged. "Nope, just sand and rocks. Good luck, though." He turned away, ending the conversation. Emma didn't buy it. Rick's burns, his cagey answer, something was off. She made a mental note to dig into him later. As she walked back to Ryan, a shadow moved near the mine, a flicker of motion in her peripheral vision. She spun, but nothing was there. Just the tunnel, dark and silent, mocking her. That evening, back in Moab, Emma sat in her motel room, Sarah's notebook open on the bed. The neon sign outside buzzed, casting red light through the curtains. She was flipping through the pages when a knock came at the door. She opened it to find a man in a faded flannel shirt, his face weathered like the desert itself. He was maybe 50, with gray-streaked hair and eyes that didn't blink enough. "You're Emma Miller," he said, not a question. "Name's Caleb. Used to work the Cane Creek mines back in the 80s. Heard about your sister." Emma's pulse quickened. "How'd you find me?" "Small town," Caleb said, his voice gravelly. "News travels. I know that mine where they found the Jeep. It's bad news. Always has been." "What do you mean?" Emma asked, stepping aside to let him in. She didn't trust him, but she needed answers. Caleb sat on the edge of a chair, his hands clasped tight. "Folks call it cursed. Miners died in their collapses, gas leaks. Some say the rock itself don't want people digging. Back in '75, 3 guys went missing, same as your sister. Never found them. Locals don't talk about it, but I know things." Emma leaned forward, her reporter instincts kicking in. "Like what?" Caleb reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded scrap of paper, yellowed with age. He unfolded it, revealing a crude sketch of the mine's tunnels, marked with X's and arrows. "This here's a map, not the official one. Shows a back way out, a ventilation shaft the company never charted. If your sister's in that mine, this might help." Emma took the map, her fingers brushing the brittle paper. "Why didn't you give this to the sheriff?" Caleb's eyes darkened. "Cops don't listen to guys like me. Besides, some folks around here don't want that mine poked into. People like Amos." "Who's Amos?" Emma asked, her voice sharp. "Old miner," Caleb said. "Lives out by the mines, keeps to himself. He's got a thing about trespassers, hates 'em. If your sister crossed his land," he trailed off, letting the implication hang. Emma's mind raced. Amos, a name, a lead. "You think he's involved?" "I ain't saying that," Caleb said, standing. "Just saying you watch your step. That mine's got secrets, and some folks'll kill to keep 'em." He headed for the door, pausing. "Don't tell nobody I gave you that map. Not even the sheriff." He was gone before Emma could respond, the door clicking shut. She stared at the map, its lines blurring in the dim light. A back way out. Secrets. Amos. Her gut told her Caleb was holding back, but the map was real, and it was more than Whitaker had given her. That night, Emma couldn't sleep. Sarah's notebook haunted her, its words looping in her mind. Asterisk. Someone's out there. Asterisk. At 11 p.m., she made a decision. She grabbed a flashlight, the map, and a water bottle, then drove to the mine. The desert was pitch black, the stars cold and distant. She parked a quarter-mile away, not wanting to draw attention, and hiked to the entrance, her boots silent on the sand. The mine loomed before her, its mouth a void that seemed to swallow light. Emma's flashlight beam cut through the dark, revealing bare rock walls and scattered debris. She stepped inside, the air cool and heavy, like a crypt. Her heart pounded, but she pushed forward, following the map's path. The tunnel narrowed, the walls closing in. She found the spot Caleb had marked, a side passage, barely 3 feet wide, leading deeper. As she squeezed through, her light caught something on the wall. Carvings, jagged symbols etched into the stone. They weren't random scratches. They looked deliberate, like a code or ritual. Circles, lines, and a shape that might have been a skull. Emma's skin crawled. She pulled out her phone, snapping photos, her hands unsteady. "What the hell is this?" she whispered, her voice echoing. She moved deeper, the map guiding her to a wider chamber. The air grew colder, the silence oppressive. Her flashlight swept the floor, landing on a pile of old cans and a rusted pickaxe. Then, a sound, a low, grinding scrape, like stone on stone. Emma froze, her breath catching. "Hello?" she called, her voice trembling. No answer, just the echo. The scrape came again, louder, from behind her. She spun, her light darting across the walls. Nothing, but the shadows seemed to shift, like the mine was alive. Her pulse raced as she backed away, the map crumpling in her grip. Then, a loud crack echoed, and a boulder the size of a tire dislodged from the ceiling, crashing inches from her feet. Dust choked the air, and Emma stumbled, her flashlight clattering to the ground. She scrambled for it, her hands shaking. The beam flickered back on, revealing the chamber, empty but wrong. The carvings on the wall seemed sharper, more menacing, like they'd moved. And then she heard it, a faint, whispered voice, barely audible, from deeper in the mine. "Emma, go back." Her blood turned to ice. She spun, aiming the light down the tunnel. Nothing but darkness. The voice came again, closer, a hiss in the shadows. "Go back." Her flashlight flickered, then died, plunging her into total blackness. The mine's hum filled her ears, a low, sinister drone that seemed to pulse with her heartbeat. The desert sun beat down on the Cane Creek mine, turning the red rock to a furnace by 10 a.m. on the 12th of September, 2019. Sheriff Dan Whitaker stood at the entrance, his hat shading eyes that had seen too much in 30 years on the job. The mine was a crime scene now, cordoned off with yellow tape that fluttered in the dry wind. Deputies milled around, their radios crackling, while forensic techs in white suits crawled over the tunnel like ants. News vans from Salt Lake City and Denver lined the dirt road a half-mile away, their cameras trained on the dark mouth of the mine. Moab was buzzing, the discovery of 2 bodies, Sarah Miller and Andrew Hayes, missing since 2011, igniting a firestorm of speculation. But Whitaker wasn't buying the headlines about cursed mines or desert serial killers. He wanted facts, and the facts were grim. Inside the mine, forensic tech Lisa Wynn knelt beside the bodies, her flashlight illuminating the mummified remains. Sarah and Andrew sat against the wall, their hands clasped, their faces frozen in a grotesque parody of peace, their hiking clothes-faded jeans and flannel hung loose on shriveled frames, preserved by the dry air. Their eyes, wide open and glassy, stared into the dark, as if they'd seen something terrible in their final moments. Lisa's camera clicked, capturing every detail, the twisted angles of their legs, the fractures visible through torn fabric, the silver necklace lying between them, its eternal pendant glinting like a cruel joke. "Cause of death?" Whitaker asked, his voice low. He crouched beside her, the tunnel's chill seeping through his uniform. Lisa didn't look up, her gloved hands probing the remains. Starvation and dehydration, most likely. No blood, no defensive wounds. These leg fractures multiple, severe, suggest a fall, probably 15 to 20 feet. They couldn't walk, couldn't fight. They just sat here. Whitaker's jaw tightened. "And the steel plate? Welded from the inside, you said." "Yeah," Lisa replied, glancing at the entrance. "Professional welds, clean and tight. You'd need a heavy rig, a generator, maybe a couple hours, but there's no equipment in here. Not a wrench, not a spark plug. Whoever did this took everything and vanished." Whitaker stood, his boots scuffing the dusty floor. "So they fall, break their legs, and someone seals them in like a tomb. That's not an accident. That's murder." Lisa nodded, her face grim. There's more. This necklace. She held up the evidence bag, the silver pendant catching the light. It's too clean, too new. Their gears rotted, but this looks like it was dropped yesterday. In Sarah's notebook, she handed him another bag, containing the tattered journal Emma had seen in Moab Sheriff's office. Last entry says, "He's watching us." She was scared, Sheriff. Someone was here with them. Whitaker flipped through the notebook, his gut churning. Sarah's words, scrawled in panic, painted a picture of dread. The light moved again. Someone's out there. Asterisk. He handed it back, his mind racing. Get that necklace to the lab, prints, DNA, anything, and I want a full sweep of this tunnel. If there's so much as a gum wrapper, I want it bagged. As Lisa returned to her work, Whitaker stepped outside, the heat hitting him like a slap. His deputy, Ryan, was talking to a reporter, waving his hands like an excited kid. Whitaker barked, "Ryan, get over here and stop yapping to the press." Ryan jogged over, his face red. "Sorry, boss. They're asking about the curse stuff. You know, the old miner stories." "Curse my ass," Whitaker muttered. "This is a crime scene, not a ghost tour." "Any word from Emma Miller?" "She's on her way," Ryan said. "Got a call from her this morning. Sounded pissed. Says she's got questions." Whitaker snorted. "She always does." Emma had been a thorn in his side since 2011, hounding him for updates on Sarah's case, writing articles that made his department look like bumbling idiots. But she was smart, relentless, and now that Sarah's body was found, she'd be a hurricane. He didn't blame her, but he didn't need her stirring up trouble either. Emma Miller pulled into the sheriff's makeshift command post at noon, her rental car kicking up dust. She'd flown from Denver the moment Whitaker called about the bodies, her mind a storm of grief and rage. Sarah, her little sister, was gone, sealed in a mine for 8 years. Andrew, too, the guy who'd promised to build Sarah a house in the mountains. Emma's eyes burned, but she'd cried herself dry on the plane. Now, she wanted answers. Whitaker met her at the tape line, his face unreadable. "Emma, I'm sorry. We're doing everything we can." "Save it," she said, her voice sharp. "I want to see them, now." He hesitated, then nodded. "All right, but it's not pretty. Stay with me, and don't touch anything." They entered the mine, the air cold and heavy. Emma's flashlight trembled as she followed Whitaker, her boots echoing in the tunnel. When they reached the bodies, she froze, her breath catching. Sarah and Andrew, sitting like they were waiting for a bus, their hands locked together, their faces gaunt, their eyes sent a shiver down her spine. She knelt, her throat tight, and reached out, stopping short of touching Sarah's hand. "They didn't fight," she whispered. "They just held on." Whitaker crouched beside her. "We think they fell, broke their legs, couldn't get out. Someone welded that plate shut, Emma. They didn't have a chance." Emma's eyes fell on the necklace, bagged and tagged beside the bodies. "That's not Sarah's," she said, her voice rising. "She didn't wear stuff like that. Andrew either." "Where'd it come from?" "We don't know," Whitaker admitted. "It's at the lab now. Could be a clue. Could be nothing." "Nothing?" Emma snapped, standing. "Someone welded them in, Sheriff. They were alive when it happened. You can't call that nothing." Whitaker's face hardened. "I'm not the enemy here, Emma. We're tearing this place apart for answers. But you need to let us work." She glared at him, her fists clenched. 8 years, Dan. 8 years I waited, and you gave me nothing. Now my sister's dead, and you're telling me to wait some more? I'm done waiting." Before he could respond, Lisa called from deeper in the tunnel. "Sheriff, you need to see this." They hurried over, finding Lisa in a side chamber, her flashlight trained on a rusted metal door, half hidden behind a pile of rocks. The door was old, its hinges corroded, but the lock was new, gleaming in the light. Whitaker frowned. "What the hell's this?" "No idea," Lisa said. "Wasn't on any mine schematics. Could be a storage room, could be something else. We need bolt cutters." Whitaker radioed for tools, his voice tense. Emma's pulse raced. A hidden room, locked tight, in a mine where her sister died? This was no coincidence. As they waited, She pulled out Sarah's notebook, rereading the last entry. Asterisk. He's watching us. Asterisk. Her eyes drifted to the necklace in its evidence bag, and a memory sparked. Wait, she said, her voice low. That necklace, I've seen it before. In Moab, 2011. A gift shop on Main Street. Sarah looked at it, said it was pretty, but too pricey. Whitaker's eyes narrowed. You sure? Positive, Emma said. Which means someone bought it, brought it here, and left it with them. Why? Before Whitaker could answer, a deputy arrived with bolt cutters. Lisa snapped the lock, and the door creaked open, revealing a small, dank room. The air inside was stale, heavy with the smell of rust and something sour. Shelves lined the walls, holding rusted cans, old tools, and Emma's heart stopped a stack of metal canisters, their surfaces marked with faded radiation symbols. Uranium, or something like it, stored illegally. Holy shit, Whitaker muttered, stepping inside. This is a hazmat situation. Lisa, get the feds on the line. But Lisa was staring at a corner, her flashlight fixed on a leather-bound book, its cover cracked with age. She picked it up, flipping it open. Sheriff, look at this. It's a log, dated from the 70s. Names, dates, disappearances. She read aloud, her voice unsteady. July 1975, 3 minors, missing. September 1980, 3, hiker, never found. And here June 2011, young couple, trespassers, dealt with by Amos. Emma's blood ran cold. Amos? Who's Amos? Whitaker took the book, his face grim. No idea, but we're gonna find out. This mind's been hiding more than bodies. Emma's mind raced. Amos. The name Caleb had mentioned in 2011, the reclusive miner who hated trespassers. She'd never followed up, too consumed by grief. Now, it felt like a mischance, a thread she should have pulled. Sheriff, she said, her voice urgent. Caleb, the guy who gave me the map in 11, he talked about Amos. Said he lived near the mine, guarded it like a fortress. Whitaker's eyes sharpened. You still got that map? At my place in Denver, Emma said. I can get it, but we need to find this Amos. Now. As they exited the room, a deputy ran up, his face pale. Sheriff, we found something else. In the main tunnel, near the bodies, you gotta see this. They followed him back, Lisa trailing with the logbook. The deputy pointed to the wall above Sarah and Andrew, where faint carving circles, lines, a skull-like shape were etched into the rock. Emma's skin crawled. She'd seen those symbols in 2011, in the side passage. These are the same, she said, her voice shaking. I photographed them. They're not random. It's like a ritual. Whitaker's face darkened. Or a signature. Someone's been marking this place for years. Lisa snapped photos, her hand steady despite the tension. Could be a cult thing, or just a psycho's graffiti. Either way, it's connected to the logbook. Those disappearances, they're not accidents. Emma's phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, asterisk. You're getting close. Too close. Check your motel room. Asterisk. Her heart pounded. She showed it to Whitaker, who cursed under his breath. Ryan, get a deputy to Emma's motel, now. That evening, Emma sat in the Moab Sheriff's office, her hands wrapped around a styrofoam cup of bad coffee. Whitaker was on the phone with the FBI, arranging a hazmat team for the uranium canisters. The logbook lay on his desk, its pages open to the 2011 entry, young couple, trespassers, dealt with by Amos, asterisk. Emma's eyes kept drifting to it, the words a knife in her chest. Sarah and Andrew, reduced to a cold note in a killer's ledger. The deputy returned from her motel, his face grim. Found this taped to your door, Miss Miller. He handed her a manila envelope, unmarked. Emma opened it, her hands unsteady. Inside was a grainy photo, taken at dusk. Sarah and Andrew, standing by their Jeep, unaware of the camera. Sarah was laughing, Andrew's arm around her. Scrawled on the back, in red ink. The mind keeps its secrets. Asterisk. Emma's breath hitched. This was taken before they disappeared. Someone was watching them, Sheriff, stalking them. Whitaker took the photo, his jaw tight. We're running prints on this, the necklace, everything. But Emma, you need to stay low. Whoever sent this knows you're here. Stay low? Emma snapped, standing. My sister was buried alive, Dan. I'm not hiding while this bastard's out there. Whitaker's voice softened, just a fraction. I get it, but you're a target now. Let us handle Amos. We're pulling records, checking property deeds. If he's out there, we'll find him. Emma didn't answer. Her mind was elsewhere, replaying Caleb's words from 2011, 1. Some folks'll kill to keep the mine's secrets. Asterisk. She dismissed him as a paranoid old man, but now, with the logbook, the photo, the carvings, she wasn't so sure. Caleb had given her the map, pointed her to Amos. Was he helping her, or setting her up? The next morning, Whitaker's team dug deeper into the mine, guided by Caleb's old map. A geologist, Dr. Karen Holt, joined the effort, her expertise needed for the uranium canisters. As they explored the side chamber, Holt called Whitaker over, her voice tense. Sheriff, this isn't just a storage room. Look at the walls. Whitaker aimed his flashlight, revealing more carvings, dozens of symbols, circling the room like a shrine. At the center, a crude drawing of a man holding a torch, his face blank. Emma, trailing behind despite Whitaker's protests, felt her stomach lurch. That's him, she said, her voice barely audible. The man with the torch. Sarah mentioned him in her recorder. Whitaker turned to her, his eyes sharp. Recorder? Emma nodded, pulling out her phone. She'd gotten a copy of Sarah's recovered audio from Lisa, a haunting fragment from the lab. She played it, the sound tinny in the tunnel. Asterisk. He's coming back. The man with the torch. Asterisk. Sarah's voice was weak, laced with terror, followed by a low hum, like the mine itself was alive. Holt's face paled. That humid's not natural. Could be air moving through uncharted shafts, or something else. This mine's bigger than we thought. Whitaker's radio crackled, Ryan's voice breaking through. Sheriff, we got a hit on Amos. Property records show a guy, Amos Reed, owns a ranch 30 miles out. Lives alone, no priors, but neighbors say he's territorial as hell. Want us to move? Whitaker glanced at Emma, his decision made. Yeah, get a warrant. We're going in. Emma's heart raced, but her phone buzzed again. Another text from the unknown number. Caleb knows. Ask him about the torch. Asterisk. She froze, the words sinking in. Caleb, the man who'd slipped her the map, who'd warned her about Amos. Was he a witness, or something worse? She showed Whitaker the text, her voice urgent. We need to find Caleb. He's tied to this, I know it. Whitaker nodded, his face grim. We'll track him down. But first, Amos, if he's our guy, we end this today. As they left the mine, Emma's eyes lingered on the carvings, the torchman staring back. The hum grew louder, a sinister pulse that seemed to follow her into the daylight. Caleb knows. The words echoed in her mind, a warning or a trap, pulling her deeper into the mine's dark secrets. The sun hung low over the Utah desert, casting long shadows across the scrub and red rock as Sheriff Dan Whitaker's convoy rolled toward Amos Reed's ranch. It was the 13th of September, 2019, and the air was thick with tension, the kind that made your skin crawl. 3 police SUVs kicked up dust on the dirt road, 30 miles from Moab, heading for a showdown with the man whose name haunted the logbook found in the Cane Creek mine. Young couple, trespassers. Dealt with by Amos. Asterisk. Whitaker gripped the wheel, his knuckles white, while Emma Miller sat in the passenger seat, her jaw set. She hadn't slept in 36 hours, driven by grief and a burning need to face the monster who'd sealed her sister Sarah and Andrew in that stone tomb 8 years ago. You sure you're up for this, Emma? Whitaker asked, his voice gruff but not unkind. This guy could be dangerous. You're a reporter, not a cop. Emma's eyes didn't leave the road. He killed my sister, Dan. I'm not sitting this out. I need to look him in the eye. Whitaker grunted, letting it go. He didn't like it, but Emma's fire was undeniable. She'd been right about the mine, about the carvings, about Amos. Her instincts had led them here, to a rundown ranch at the edge of nowhere, where Anderson maybe justice waited. The ranch came into view, a squat house of weathered wood and peeling paint, flanked by a sagging barn and a rusted pickup truck. Barbed wire fenced the property, dotted with no trespassing signs. A windmill creaked lazily, the only sound in the oppressive silence. Whitaker parked 50 yards out, the other SUVs fanning out to cover the perimeter. Deputy Ryan, riding in the second vehicle, radioed in. "No movement, Sheriff. Place looks dead." "Don't bet on it," Whitaker muttered. He turned to Emma. "Stay behind me, no heroics." She nodded, but her hand tightened around Sarah's notebook, tucked in her jacket pocket. The last entry, "He's watching us," burned in her mind, a reminder of why she was here. They approached the house, Whitaker's hand on his holster. The front door was ajar, swaying slightly in the breeze. He knocked, his voice booming. "Amos Reed, Sheriff's Department. Come out with your hands up." Silence. Then, a faint creak from inside, like a floorboard giving way. Whitaker signaled to Ryan, who flanked the porch with another deputy. Emma's pulse raced, her eyes scanning the windows. A curtain twitched, and for a split second, she saw a shadow tall, lean, watching. "He's in there," she whispered. Whitaker nodded, drawing his gun. "Amos, last chance." No response. He pushed the door open, stepping into a dim living room that smelled of mildew and old coffee. The place was a mess. Stacks of newspapers, empty beer cans, a flickering television stuck on static. A shotgun leaned against the wall, its barrel glinting in the low light. Emma followed, her flashlight sweeping the room. Her beam caught a workbench in the corner, littered with tool wrenches, a blowtorch, and a welding mask. Her stomach lurched. "Sheriff, look, welding gear." Whitaker's face hardened. "Keep moving." They cleared the kitchen, then a narrow hallway where a door led to a basement. The air grew colder, heavier, as they descended. The basement was a workshop, its walls lined with shelves of old mining equipment. In the center, a generator hummed faintly, hooked to a heavy-duty welding rig. Whitaker's light landed on a pegboard, where a ring of keys dangled dulled, rusted, the kind that might unlock mine gates. "Jackpot," he said, bagging the keys. But Emma's attention was elsewhere. A desk in the corner held a rolled-up sheet of paper, yellowed and brittle. She unrolled it, revealing a detailed map of the Cane Creek mine, marked with tunnels, shafts, and a hidden ventilation exit a mile from the main entrance. Her breath caught. "This is it, Dan." The map Caleb gave Might's the same. Amos knew every inch of that mine. Before Whitaker could respond, a low chuckle echoed from the shadows. "Knew it better than you ever will." A figure stepped into the light. Amos Reed, 62, gaunt and weathered, his eyes cold as the desert night. He wore a flannel shirt and work boots, his hands empty but his posture menacing, like a coiled snake. "You're trespassing, Sheriff. My land, my rules." Whitaker aimed his gun. "Hands where I can see him. Amos, you're coming with us." Amos didn't move, his gaze flicking to Emma. "You're the sister, ain't you? Miller girl. Got your sister's eyes. She was a trespasser, too." Emma's blood boiled. "You sealed them in that mine, you bastard. They were alive, begging for help, and you buried them." Amos's lips curled into a smirk. "They didn't belong there. Mine's private. I locked the door, that's all. Ain't my fault they couldn't get out." "Locked the door?" Emma shouted, stepping forward. Whitaker grabbed her arm, pulling her back. "You welded it shut. They starved, Amos. You murdered them." Amos shrugged, his voice flat. "Trespassers get what they deserve. I protected what's mine." Whitaker's voice was steel. "You're under arrest, Reed. Turn around, hands behind your back." Amos complied, his movements slow, deliberate. As Ryan cuffed him, Emma's eyes darted to the desk, spotting a small box tucked beneath papers. She opened it, her heart pounding. Inside was another silver necklace, identical to the one found with Sarah and Andrew, engraved with Eternal. Her voice trembled. "Sheriff, look at this. He's got more. Amos's smirk faltered, just for a second. Whitaker bagged the necklace, his face grim. You got a lot of explaining to do, Amos. Let's go. They hauled Amos to the Moab sheriff's office, where he sat in an interrogation room, his hands cuffed to the table. The room was stark, lit by a buzzing fluorescent bulb. Whitaker and Emma watched through the one-way glass, her arms crossed, her nerves frayed. Inside, Amos stared at the wall, his face blank, like a man who'd already checked out. He's too calm, Emma said, her voice low. He's not even denying it. Whitaker nodded. Guys like him don't break easy. But we've got the map, the keys, the welding gear, and that logbook his name's all over it. He's done. Emma wasn't so sure. The necklace, the carvings, the text about Caleb, it all pointed to something bigger, something Amos wasn't saying. She pulled out her phone, rereading the message. Caleb knows. Ask him about the torch. Asterisk. Her gut told her Amos was only part of the puzzle. Whitaker entered the interrogation room, slamming the logbook on the table. Start talking, Amos. This book says you dealt with Sarah Miller and Andrew Hayes in 2011. Says you dealt with others, too. What's that mean? Amos leaned back, his eyes glinting. Means I kept my land clean. Folks come poking around, looking for uranium, for secrets. I make sure they don't leave. You welded them in, Whitaker said, his voice rising. Alive. You call that cleaning? Amos's voice was cold, emotionless. They fell. Broke their legs. I heard him screaming, down in that shaft. Didn't talk to him, didn't need to. They were on my land, uninvited. I closed the door. Simple. Emma, watching through the glass, felt bile rise in her throat. She imagined Sarah's screams, Andrew's desperate pleas, and Amos, standing above, welding the mind shut without a flicker of mercy. Her fists clenched, nails digging into her palms. Whitaker slid the map across the table. This yours? Shows a back exit, a ventilation shaft. That's how you got out after sealing the mine, isn't it? Amos's eyes flicked to the map, then away. Ain't saying nothing about that. Then, explain the necklaces, Whitaker pressed, holding up the evidence bag. One with the bodies, one in your house. What's eternal mean? Amos's smirk returned. Pretty, ain't they? Just trinkets. Found 'em in town. Whitaker leaned forward, his voice low. You're looking at life, Amos. Murder, conspiracy, illegal uranium storage. Help yourself. Tell me who else is involved. Amos's eyes narrowed, but he stayed silent. Whitaker slammed his hand on the table, standing. You're done, Reed. We'll bury you. As Whitaker left the room, Emma's phone buzzed. Another text, same unknown number. Asterisk, he's not alone. Find Caleb. Now. Asterisk. Her heart skipped. She showed it to Whitaker, who cursed. We're pulling Caleb in. Got an address from a local. He's 10 miles out. But Emma, you stay here. This is police work. No way, she said, her voice firm. Caleb's been playing me since 2011. I'm coming. Whitaker sighed, knowing he couldn't stop her. Fine. But you're in the back, and you do what I say. They reached Caleb's trailer at dusk, a rusted Hulk parked on a barren lot surrounded by sagebrush. The windows were dark, the door locked. Whitaker knocked, his gun drawn. Caleb, Sheriff's Department. Open up. No answer. Ryan kicked the door in, and they swept inside, flashlights cutting through the gloom. The trailer was a pigsty, dirty dishes, old mining magazines, a cot with a stained blanket. On a table, Emma spotted a familiar Sida silver necklace, eternal engraved on its pendant. Her blood ran cold. Sheriff, another one. Caleb's got one too. Whitaker bagged it, his face grim. He's in this up to his neck. Where the hell is he? A creak came from outside, faint but deliberate. Whitaker signaled Ryan to check the back. Emma's flashlight landed on a corkboard, pinned with photos. The mine, the desert, and her breath caught a blurry shot of Sarah and Andrew, taken from a distance, standing by their Jeep. The same photo sent to her motel. Dan, look at this. Caleb was watching them. Before Whitaker could respond, the trailer door burst open, and Caleb lunged in, his eyes wild. He was wiry, fast, a knife gleaming in his hand. "You shouldn't be here," he snarled, swinging at Emma. She dove behind the table, the blade missing her by inches. Whitaker tackled Caleb, slamming him to the floor. Ryan rushed in, cuffing Caleb's wrists as he thrashed, spitting curses. "You don't understand," Caleb shouted. "The mine needs protecting." Amos was right. Whitaker hauled him up, his voice ice. "Protecting? You helped him kill those kids, didn't you?" Caleb's eyes darted to Emma, his voice dropping to a hiss. "Amos didn't do it alone. I helped, but it wasn't just us. The mine ain't talk, Sheriff. It demands things. Blood." Emma's skin crawled. "You're insane," she said, stepping forward. "You stalked my sister, took pictures, left those necklaces. Why?" Caleb's laugh was jagged, unhinged. "The necklaces? A gift. For the mine. Eternal, see? They stay forever. Like the others." Whitaker's face darkened. "Others? How many, Caleb?" Caleb clamped his mouth shut, his eyes glinting with defiance. Whitaker shoved him toward the SUV, radioing for backup. Emma's mind reeled. Caleb's words, "The mine demands blood," echoed Amos's cold logic. Were they both delusional, or was there something darker at play? Back at the sheriff's office, Caleb sat in a holding cell, silent as stone. Amos, in the interrogation room, hadn't budged, his smirk fixed. Whitaker and Emma regrouped in his office, the logbook, map, and necklaces spread across his desk. "We've got enough to nail Amos," Whitaker said, rubbing his temples. "The logbook, the welding gear, his own words. Caleb's a wild card, though. He's scared, but he's not talking." Emma stared at the photo of Sarah and Andrew, her voice low. Caleb said others. That logbook mentioned disappearances going back decades. What if they've been doing this for years? Whitaker nodded. Possible. The uranium canisters, the carvings could be a front for something bigger. Smuggling, maybe, or a cult. We're digging into Amos's past, Caleb's too. Emma's phone buzzed. Another text. "The torch isn't Amos. Look closer. Asterisk." Her heart pounded. She showed it to Whitaker, who cursed. "Someone's playing games. We need to find that sender." But Emma's mind was elsewhere, replaying Caleb's words, Amos's smirk, the carvings of the torchman. She pulled out Sarah's recorder audio, playing it again. Asterisk. "He's coming back. The man with the torch." Asterisk. A memory sparked Amos's basement, the blowtorch on his workbench. But Caleb had mentioned the mine talking, like a living thing. Was it madness, or a cover for something real? Whitaker's radio crackled, Ryan's voice urgent. "Sheriff, we got a problem." Team at the mine found another chamber, deeper in. More carvings, more canisters, and personal items. Wallets, keys, stuff from the 70s. "Looks like a trophy room." Emma's blood ran cold. "Trophies? From the other victims?" Whitaker grabbed his hat. "We're heading back. Emma, you're with me." They raced to the mine, the desert night swallowing their headlights. The new chamber was 100 feet deeper, accessed through a narrow shaft. Dr. Karen Holt, the geologist, met them at the entrance, her face pale. "It's bad, Sheriff. Dozens of items, IDs, jewelry, even a kid's backpack. And the carvings, they're everywhere, centered around that torch figure." Emma stepped inside, her flashlight trembling. The chamber was a shrine, its walls etched with symbols, the torchman looming over a pile of relics. Among them, a faded photo caught her eye. 3 miners, smiling, dated 1975. She recognized one face, a younger Amos, his eyes cold even then. Her voice shook. "He's been at this for decades." Holt nodded. "And the uranium, it's not old stock. Some canisters are recent, maybe 5 years old. Someone's still using this mine." Emma's phone buzzed again, the screen lighting up in the dark. Asterisk. "Caleb's not what he seems. Check his trailer again." Asterisk. She showed it to Whitaker, her heart racing. "We missed something. Caleb's hiding more than necklaces." Whitaker's face was grim. "We'll tear his place apart." But Emma, This is getting dangerous. Whoever's texting you knows too much." As they left the chamber, the mind's hum grew louder, a sinister pulse that seemed to follow them. Emma's eyes lingered on the torchman, its blank face staring back. Caleb's words echoed, "The mind demands blood." Asterisk. She clutched Sarah's notebook, her resolve hardening. Amos was in custody, Caleb was cuffed, but the texts, the trophies, the torchman, they pointed to a truth still buried, waiting to drag her under. The Moab courthouse was a squat, sun-baked building on Center Street, its flag drooping in the September 2020 heat. Inside, the trial of Amos Reed packed the gallery with reporters, locals, and victims' families, their murmurs buzzing like flies. Emma Miller sat in the front row, her hands clasped tight, Sarah's notebook tucked in her purse like a talisman. It had been a year since the discovery of Sarah and Andrew's bodies in the Cane Creek mine, a year of sleepless nights and relentless digging for answers. Amos, the gaunt, cold-eyed miner, who'd sealed them in, now sat at the defendant's table, his face as blank as the desert rock. But Emma's gut told her this wasn't the end. Caleb's cryptic words, the anonymous texts, the mind's sinister hum, they all pointed to a truth still buried, and she wasn't leaving Moab until she found it. The prosecutor, a sharp-eyed woman named Claire Hansen, laid out the case with surgical precision. Amos Reed, she said, pacing before the jury, deliberately welded shut the entrance to the Cane Creek mine in June 2011, knowing Sarah Miller and Andrew Hayes were alive inside, trapped with broken legs. He heard their screams, saw their pain, and chose to bury them alive. This wasn't negligence, it was murder, cold and calculated. She held up the logbook, its pages damning. Young couple, trespassers, dealt with by Amos. Asterisk. This man didn't just kill Sarah and Andrew. He's linked to disappearances going back decades, a predator hiding behind no trespassing signs. Amos's lawyer, a slick Salt Lake City type, argued self-defense and not of life, but of property. "My client protected his land," he said, his voice smooth. "Trespassers brought danger, chaos. Amos acted to secure his mine, not to kill. The prosecution has no proof of intent. But the evidence was crushing. The welding gear, the map with its hidden shaft, the necklaces marked eternal. The jury took 3 hours to convict, delivering a verdict of intentional abandonment, causing death. Amos got 18 years, no parole. As the gavel fell, he turned, his eyes locking on Emma, his smirk a silent taunt. "You don't know everything." Asterisk. Emma left the courtroom, her chest tight. Justice was served, but it felt hollow. Sarah was still gone, Andrew too, and Caleb, Amos's unhinged accomplice, was still out there, released on a technicality after his arrest. The necklaces, the carvings, the uranium canisters, they hinted at a conspiracy deeper than one man's paranoia. And those texts, always one step ahead, kept coming. The latest, received last night, read, "The mine isn't done. Look deeper." Asterisk. She showed it to Sheriff Dan Whitaker outside, his face etched with exhaustion. "Emma, you gotta let this go," Whitaker said, lighting a cigarette. "Amos is locked up. Caleb's gone to ground. We're still sweeping the mine, but you're chasing shadows." "Shadows don't send texts, Dan," she snapped, holding up her phone. "Someone's out there, watching. Caleb knows more, and I'm not stopping until I find him." Whitaker exhaled smoke, his eyes narrowing. "You're poking a hornet's nest. The feds are handling the uranium now smuggling ring, maybe. But Caleb? He's a ghost, no trace since he bolted." Emma's jaw set. "Then I'll find him myself." Back at her motel, Emma spread her evidence across the bed. Sarah's notebook, Caleb's map, photos of the mine's carvings, the logbook's copied pages. The torchman symbol haunted her, its blank face staring from every sketch. She'd cross-referenced the logbook's disappearances: 3 miners in 1975, a hiker in 1983, others scattered across decades. All linked to the mine, all marked by Amos or someone like him. But Caleb's role was murky. He'd helped Amos, admitted to stalking Sarah and Andrew, but his talk of the mine demanding blood felt like a dodger, a delusion shared with Amos. Her phone buzzed. A new text. Check the trailer again. You missed something. Asterisk. Emma's pulse raced. Caleb's trailer, searched a year ago, had yielded the necklace and photos, but maybe they'd overlooked a clue. She grabbed her flashlight and keys, driving 10 miles out under a moonless sky. The trailer loomed in the desert, its rusted frame a skeleton against the stars. The door hung open, swaying in the breeze, as if inviting her in. Inside, the air was stale, the mess untouched since the sheriff's raid. Emma's flashlight swept the floor, landing on the corkboard where Caleb's photos once hung. It was bare now, but a corner of paper peeked from behind. She pried it loose, revealing a folded note, written in Caleb's jagged scrawl. The torch isn't Amos. It's older. Ask Holt. Asterisk Dr. Karen Holt, the geologist who'd mapped the mine's chambers. Emma's mind raced. Holt had found the uranium canisters, the trophy room. Did she know more? A creak came from outside, sharp and deliberate. Emma froze, her flashlight dimming. Who's there? She called, her voice echoing in the trailer. No answer, but the creak came again, closer. She slipped the note into her pocket, backing toward the door. Her beam caught a shadow tall, lean, moving fast. She bolted, sprinting to her car, the shadow's footsteps crunching behind her. She dove inside, locking the doors, and floored it, dust billowing in her rear view. The shadow vanished, but her heart didn't stop racing until she hit Moab's lights. The next morning, Emma tracked Holt to a field office near the mine, where the feds were cataloging the uranium. Holt, a wiry woman in her 40s with sharp eyes, was sorting soil samples, her desk cluttered with maps. Emma Miller, she said, looking up. Heard you were still in town. What's this about? Emma slid Caleb's note across the desk. This was in his trailer. Says the torch isn't Amos, and to ask you. What's it mean? Holt's face tightened, her fingers pausing on a sample vial. Caleb's crazy. Always was. Worked with my dad in the 80s, rambled about mine spirits. The torch, man's just a carving, old miner graffiti, means nothing. Emma leaned forward, her voice low. Don't bullshit me, Karen. You found the trophy room, the canisters. You know more than you're saying. Holt sighed, glancing at the door. All right, but this stays between us. The carvings, they're not random. I've seen them in other mines, Nevada, Arizona. Old symbols, maybe native, maybe something else. Miners used them as markers or warnings. The torch, man's rare though, shows up in places with bad history. Disappearances, accidents. Emma's skin prickled, like Cane Creek. Holt nodded, her voice dropping. Yeah. And the uranium, it's not just old stock. Some canisters are new, sealed 5 years ago. Someone's been moving product through that mine, long after Amos stopped working it. Caleb? Emma asked. Maybe, Holt said. Or someone bigger. Amos was a grunt, a guard dog. Caleb too. But the torch man, it's like a signature, a claim. Whoever's behind this, they're still out there. Emma's phone buzzed, a new text. Asterisk. Holt's close. Keep digging. Asterisk. She showed it to Holt, who cursed. Someone's watching you, Emma. Get out of Moab. Now. Not happening, Emma said, standing. I'm finding Caleb and whoever's sending these texts. That afternoon, Whitaker called Emma to the mine, where a new discovery had shaken the team. A third chamber, deeper than the trophy room, had been found 200 feet underground, accessed through a hidden shaft. Emma joined Whitaker and Holt at the entrance. The mines hum louder now, a bone-deep drone that set her teeth on edge. The chamber was small, its walls etched with torchman carvings, dozens of them, circling a stone slab like an altar. On the slab lay relics, wallets, keys, a child's backpack, and a third eternal necklace, its silver gleaming. A faded photo, dated 1975, showed 3 miners: son Amos, young and cold-eyed, the other strangers. This is a graveyard, Whitaker said, his voice hollow. These belong to the logbook victims, but this necklace, it's new, like the others. Someone's been here recently. Emma's flashlight landed on a leather journal, tucked beneath the slab. She opened it, her hands shaking. The pages, dated 1975, described a pact to protect the mine's secrets. The torch demands loyalty. Blood for silence. Asterisk. The last entry, in a different hand, read, 2011, couple found the shaft. Handled. C asterisk. Her breath caught. See Caleb. He was here, with Amos. Holt's face paled. That journal's pre-Amos. Whoever started this, they trained him, and Caleb. Whitaker's radio crackled, Ryan's voice frantic. Sheriff, we got a hit on Caleb, spotted at a gas station, 20 miles west. He's running. Whitaker turned to Emma. Stay here with Holt, we're bringing him in. Emma nodded, but her mind was elsewhere. The journal, the necklaces, the text, they were pieces of a puzzle, and Caleb was the key. As Whitaker left, Holt pulled her aside. Emma, I found something else. Soil samples from the chamber high radiation, fresh. Someone's still mining uranium, right under our noses. Before Emma could respond, her phone buzzed. The torch lives. Find Caleb before he finds you. Asterisk. Her heart pounded. She showed it to Holt, who grabbed her arm. We need to get out of here. Now. That night, Emma drove to the gas station where Caleb was spotted, ignoring Whitaker's orders. The place was a neon-lit dive off Highway 191, its pumps flickering in the dark. The clerk, a bored kid with a nose ring, remembered Caleb. Yeah, weird guy. Bought a burner phone, some water, and split. Looked spooked. Emma's flashlight swept the lot, landing on a trash can. Inside, crumpled among soda cans, was a receipt for a burner phone, time-stamped 2 hours ago. Her gut twisted. Caleb was close, and he was watching. She texted Whitaker the receipt's details, then headed back to her car, the desert night pressing in. As she reached for the door, a shadow loomed behind her, reflected in the window. She spun, her flashlight catching Caleb's face, haggard, wild, his eyes glinting like a cornered animal. You don't stop, do you? He hissed, his knife gleaming. The mine warned you, Emma. Now it's your turn. She dodged as he lunged, the blade grazing her jacket. Caleb, stop, she shouted, backing toward the station. I know about the torch, the pact. Tell me who's behind it. Caleb's laugh was jagged, unhinged. You think it's just people? The mine chooses, Emma. It chose Sarah, Andrew, the others. It'll choose you. He advanced, his knife raised, but headlights flooded the lot. Whitaker's SUV, screeching to a stop. Caleb bolted, vanishing into the dark. Whitaker jumped out, gun drawn. Emma, you okay? She nodded, her breath ragged. He's gone. But he's not alone, Dan. The torch, it's a cult, or something worse. They're still out there. The next morning, Emma stood at the mine's entrance, the desert sun rising behind her. Whitaker's team was combing Caleb's last known locations, but he'd vanished, a ghost in the sand. The feds had taken over the uranium case, sealing the mine's chambers, but Emma knew the truth was deeper, buried in the rock. She clutched Sarah's notebook, her sister's final words. He's watching us, a vow to keep going. Holt joined her, her face grim. We found one more thing, she said, handing Emma a soil sample report. Radiation spikes, dated last month. Someone's still working that mine, Emma. And they know we're close. Emma's eyes drifted to the mine, its mouth a black void. The hum was faint now, but it lingered, a pulse in her bones. She spoke, her voice steady. Sarah, I'll find him. I swear, but this place, it's alive. As she turned to leave, her phone buzzed. One last text, the mine waits, asterisk. The screen flickered, then went dark. A cold wind stirred the dust, and the mine's hum grew louder, a sinister call that followed her into the dawn.